Vivi, I am almost believing in God. And in that process, what's really important to me is to understand what that God would be like. In the Judeo-Christian traditions, we have a certain kind of understanding of the nature of that God. I really want to understand what the Hindu understanding of the nature of God would be.
In the Hindu worldview, God is not an entity whose existence is to be believed in. It is not like an Easter egg that that is hidden somewhere and we try to find, but rather it is an experience. Whether one experiences God or not is what matters in the Hindu worldview, not whether one believes in it. And the experience can come about in different ways. And it is also related to the idea of monotheism, if I may comment here. God, from the Hindu perspective, is somewhat like music, in this sense that music is not accessible to everybody. And what do I mean by that? If one is born stone deaf, one cannot appreciate music. One may appreciate many other things. There are other faculties. I'm not belittling, but as an analogy, I'm saying that just as people who can hear know what is music, people who are sensitive to the divine can know what is divine. It's an analogy. But if I were to ask you, as I'm sure you believe in music, in the existence of music, if I ask you how many music are there, the question is really irrelevant. I mean, it's meaningless almost. You know that there are countless songs and concertos and symphonies and ditties and whatnot. Likewise, the divine can be experienced in innumerable ways. This is where the old Hindu or the caricature of Hinduism as consisting of 330 million gods, they used to say, and there are expressions even within the Hindu tradition where they would say this, but what they meant was that the divine can be experienced in countless modes. And therefore, the question is not whether one believes in such a divinity, but whether one gets an inkling of it in the course of one's life. Now, naturally, in the course of the long history, cultural history of Hinduism, many different representations of the divine have been made. And from the Hindu perspective, there are three different levels at which the divine might be experienced. There is an aphorism which says, Pratima Prathama Puja. That means the first way of worshipping God is through a symbol, through an image, through an icon. This helps, just as when we teach geometry for the first time to children, we do draw figures. If I can give a proof of the fact that the three angles of a triangle add up to two right angles, I can do that without drawing a figure, but I can leave the student confused. You need to draw a figure, A, B, C, extend B, C to D, and so on. Likewise, there is a stage at which we worship God or the divine in these many forms or images. The next stage is when we just repeat the attributes of God. It is called japa in the Hindu tradition. Repeated utterance of God's name in different qualities, which is like the perfect one, the all-merciful, things like that. That's the second stage. And the third stage is what is called manasa puja, or through the mind you try to meditate through meditation. And the fourth or final stage is what I would say as recognition of oneself with the ultimate. You see, soham, that means I am he, I am it, I am that. So those are the different gradations.
But these are ways that we can learn to experience God,
Yeah,
which is so
exactly.
important in the Hindu
Yeah.
tradition.
Yeah.
But what is that God?
That God, now, again, there are categorizations here. Historically, there are, or from the mythopoeic point of view, there are incarnations of God. And some of the more, the better known incarnations are Rama and Krishna. And it is, there are temples built for these divinities. And that is where the images, the icons come. Then
These are reflections of God?
Yeah,
This is literal incarnation, the
these
way
are incarnations.
Jesus would be an incarnation?
Jesus, in the extended Hindu worldview, would be an incarnation of the divine. But in the epics of India, there are two major epics which are part of the scripture, but not in the sense of infallible, but in the sense of sacred writings. In these two scriptures, one is the saga of Rama, the path of Rama, one of the gods, and Krishna is the other. And you will find in many temples there are icons of Rama and his consort Sita and Krishna and Radha. These are modes by which one visualizes the divine. And there are beautiful and fascinating stories associated with these incarnations, which some people regard as having been historically incarnate divinities. For others, these are symbolic messages for conveying the ultimate meaning and significance of religious life. But whatever that be, those are modes. And then there is in the Hindu world a triune, a principle, a triple principle, one for the creation, another for the sustenance, and the third for the dissolution of the physical universe.
Can we, to go back to your original question, distinguish between a monotheism and a polytheism? Is Hinduism a polytheistic religion?
So Hinduism, as I said, is a monotheistic religion insofar as it proclaims that there is but one divinity, but it is polytheistic in the sense that it admits or accepts that single divinity, ultimate divinity, can be and is being described by different people in different ways. Somewhat not unlike the story of the 6 blind men and the elephant you might have heard. It was 6 men of Hindustan, much of them inclined, wanted to see an elephant, though all of them were blind, that each at least by observation might satisfy his mind. One approached the elephant and happening to fall against its broad and sturdy side, at once began to bawl, "Oh, the wonder of an elephant is very like a wall." And so on and on it says. Another person thought by feeling the tail that, "Oh, the elephant is like a rope." Another by the feeling the legs of the elephant thought it's like a trunk, and so on and so forth. The moral of that poem was that everybody was wrong, everybody was partially right, but totally wrong. But I would phrase it slightly. It shows that everybody recognizes the existence of something, and they articulate that existence through their own experiences. So it does not deny the existence of the elephant, but it simply stresses how its existence, though recognized, is described in different terms and with different metaphors. So, is Hinduism monotheistic? It's certainly in the sense of there being one ultimate truth. It's polytheistic, certainly in the sense of that truth being expressed in different ways.
And how would you characterize the attributes of that divinity? In Western religions, we talk about omnipotent, omniscience, perfectly free,
Yeah.
perfectly good, creator of the universe. We have a series of 5, 6, 7
Yes.
core attributes. Is there a similarity in
Yes,
Hinduism?
certainly in the what may be called the mythopoeic definition or description of God, that's exactly that God is defined or described in terms of all these human attributes. All religions which regard God in anthropomorphic terms simply extend every positive human attribute and make it into infinite, that particular character. So anything that we consider, whether it is love or mercy or charity or goodness or kindness, we simply exaggerate it by a million folds.
Or power or knowledge.
All those things are multiplied. So from that point of view, the Hindu God would also be that. However, in the abstract sense, the Hindu God is somewhat like the symbol X in algebra, which in order to make it meaningful, you give it particular values, whether it is 3 or 5 or pi, whatever number you give to that X is what makes it contextually relevant and interesting and useful. But we should know that it stands not for the particular numbers, but for numbers as a whole. That is the Hindu way of looking at the divine.